Ready?
Ready.
God.
Rolling.
No, that's awesome.
So-
Yeah,
Yeah, small world, man.
very small world.
Yeah.
Speaking of small worlds, it's another episode of 2Techies, and I am here with Brian Breslin.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Of Refresh Miami. So Brian, tell me, when did you fall in love with tech?
Ooh, I think I was 14 years old, and
14.
that's when I started I learned how to program when I was 14. Mainly, this was like 96. Yeah, so I started reading about the web and all this stuff, and we had like an AOL account, I think.
Old
And-
school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, with dial-up and everything, like the
Beep,
beeping.
beep.
Yeah,
Mhm,
yeah.
mhm.
And I'm pretty sure I spent way too much money on my parents, or my parents' money, like dialing in too much, and getting disconnected whenever like my sister would pick up the phone. So I think it was about then, like 96, 97. That's when I first started like getting into tech and web and all that stuff.
So tell us, what do you actually do in tech and innovation?
So my day job is I'm running a startup called SimCase,
Okay.
and we're building educational games for higher ed, so for adults. And so we're building games to teach math and business and economics and things like that.
And when are you expecting to have that released?
So we're already out in the market. We launched it, or we started the company about a year ago, and we're right now in 2 schools, and like our goal is to be in like about 10 by the end of the year. So, so it's actually in the market and making money, which is good.
Really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're beyond the startup phase. You're
Yeah.
in it
Yeah.
to win it.
Well, no, definitely startup phase. Like there's still bootstrapping. And
Still
like-
bootstrapping. Okay. So no funding yet?
No outside funding. We're like in the middle of that, which is super stressful. So
Yeah. But exciting times. Exciting
Yeah.
times. So I'm gonna hit you with a bit of a curveball.
okay.
What is your favorite craft beer or craft cocktail?
I typically go towards whiskeys over beer. And I tend to lean towards like an old fashioned, just because
Ooh, love old fashions.
it's flavorful enough, and it's hard for an inexperienced bartender to screw up too much. And so that's typically sort of like my litmus test for if a bartender, if he screws up that old fashioned, I switch back to just straight bourbon on the rocks.
Right. Just keep it simple.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to the Continental on the beach?
I have not.
They have a fantastic old fashioned. It has a nice slice of coconut in it.
Oh, okay, that's
really
interesting.
good. Really, really good. It's one of our
Okay.
favorite places to go.
Cool.
If your business life was based on a movie or a TV show,
Uh-huh.
and we plugged into what would your eyes project?
Oh man. I think a little bit of The Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
Okay.
Or something like that, like a lot of boringness and occasional adventure.
Really?
You know, so I think, yeah. I mean, I don't think a movie has been made about like boring logistics software ever. So
But nothing's boring about coding.
yeah, but I mean, well, coding in isolation can be sort of
Yeah.
you
No, I
know,
feel you, but you know.
tedious and all that stuff. But
Yeah.
I mean, and there hasn't been a realistic tech movie ever.
Sound like we
Right.
got some work to do.
Maybe that's on you guys. So
Indeed, indeed.
I mean, real life isn't like the Social Network movie.
No, it's not. No, it's not. There's tons of time, tons of hours spent looking at
Yeah.
the screen,
Yeah.
red eyes.
Yeah, eating
PJs,
unhealthy food and
that-
drinking unhealthy drinks all day
Yeah,
while you're sitting.
yeah. It's rough. It's rough. What do you feel is one of your biggest challenges or struggles you're currently dealing with?
In life or in career or what? Where do you
And let's
wanna go
start with
this?
career. Let's start with career.
So right now our biggest challenge is raising money.
Okay.
And figuring out how to scale our product.
Okay.
Right? And it's more like scaling on the sales and biz dev side than it is on the product and development side. It's like I've been building software for 15, 20 years almost. So that part isn't the challenge. The challenge is scaling like the company and the growth and all that stuff.
And what do you sort of feel? Do you find that challenging because you're here in Miami? Is that a location specific challenge, or what do you think?
It doesn't help.
Okay.
So the challenge with that is like there's a lot of risk aversion when it comes to investment here, right? and there isn't as much risk tolerance as in other communities like San Francisco or New York and things like that. And I think part of that's due to like we don't have any very good examples of people who took a risk on some crazy idea and then it paid off big. Even if those are outliers, like people don't understand the concept of outliers anyways, so they just assume that everyone could be that outlier. And so we don't have that track record here yet, and I think that hasn't helped. I'm not saying that like it's a detriment to being here. You just have to adapt, right? And so like we've shifted our business around to being more like cash flow oriented than focusing purely on like let's hit a certain number of users and things like that, you know, and then go raise money. So I mean, you just adapt, and like that's part of the game.
Yeah. So let's take it to the life side. What's the challenge that you're facing in life?
Oh man. So this year, all right, last couple of years I was focusing on like improving my intelligence. So I went and got my MBA and I did a lot of like reading and stuff like that. And this year, but then I stopped exercising as much as I used to and all these things. So this year is more about sort of bringing back together like getting better, focus on me, the human, right? The biology. So like better sleep, better lowering my stress, things like that, you know, and being healthier overall. Now it's sort of like I have one element that I feel like I've done a good job on. Now let me go work on the other ones. Together I can be more productive or more
and have some balance.
Effective.
Have some balance.
Yeah.
So how do you feel the MBA has helped you? Have you seen any ROI yet?
So I have. And so the benefit of it was that I was running my own business the whole time. And so I was able to implement changes in my business like on the fly as I was going. And so like I changed entirely the way I do like pricing and value proposition and strategy and things like that.
Yeah.
And for me, it helped a lot, I think, because I didn't have any strong business mentorship before. So like even though I'm involved in this community here, there was very rarely was there a case where I was getting advice from others. I was giving a lot of advice from my limited sort of pool of knowledge, but I wasn't getting the advice that I wanted to in order to like grow faster. And so for me, I think it made sense.
And I think that could actually go into our next question. Tell us a little bit about a milestone in your journey and career.
That's a good question. I don't know.
Well, getting the MBA is a milestone for sure.
Sure. But like when I think of milestones, I think of like hitting $1 million a year in revenue or something like that, you know. And like we've flirted with that, but like that's not something that like I'm not doing this purely for like financial reasons, you know, like because if I was, I wouldn't have been working on Refresh Miami for the last decade, you know, because that probably cost me way more money than it ever generated, you know, in opportunity cost and actual paying for pizzas for people and stuff like that.
But it did a lot for the community though.
Sure. No, like, and I wouldn't do it any other way, you know, like, I mean, that's another area where I wish I'd had better mentorship and things like that. And so through Refresh, we've been making a concerted effort to help smaller groups sort of rise up, you know, because there's a lot of things they don't know. Like I didn't know how to organize a community and how to bring in sponsors and do all these things that are needed in order to succeed. Like, I mean, we sort of succeeded by sheer inertia and luck for a long time, you know, and so, but that's not something that everybody has, you know, like you can't count on luck as your driving force. Like if you can, then you're a super anomaly, I guess. But so like that's something that's important to us at Refresh now is like helping smaller groups sort of take off and giving them tools and promotion and things like that that'll help them get the communities they need in order to get sort of that critical mass that lets them keep sustaining. In like 11 years, I've seen a lot of groups come and go that are serving valuable niches that need better support from the community. And like you can't sustain a meetup group with only 10 people. You need 50 or 100 or 200.
Right, you gotta have that critical mass.
Right, and so like I want to help as many groups as I can get to that so that we don't have to be everything to everybody, and so that things like Venture Cafe, which are here in CIC, can support 100 different groups, you know?
Exactly. And speaking of sort of supporting groups and tapping into that, if you were to have all of the resources to fix diversity and inclusion, but you have to pitch it in 4 sentences, what would be your pitch?
4 sentences?
Just four.
See, the thing is, that's a trap.
We're not trying to trap you.
I know, but like, there's no simple solution because it's such a complex
very complex,
issue.
very complex.
Because you're talking about how do you encourage companies to hire more diversity? How do you encourage a broader set of people to get into either technology or creative industries or anything like that?
Right.
So like, there isn't one silver bullet to this, you know, and this is way over 4 sentences, but I mean, I don't think it should be limited to 4 sentences. And so, like, and you can't, this isn't like a carrot and the stick, you know, like you can offer carrots in order to like incentivize people, but you can't really punish people in a fair way for, you know, not having diversity. The real punishment is the marketplace. You know, and so anybody who's building a product that's trying to reach the masses should have a human resources equivalent or representative. Their resource pool should be representative of the people they're selling to, right?
Right.
You know, like how could I ever sell to teenagers or to a certain group if I don't have anyone on my team that's from that
can
group?
Speak to that group.
You know,
exactly.
Right? Because it's something that, like, you at your core have different experiences than everyone else, and so everyone, like, if all the people on your team are the same, it's a very myopic and very sort of narrow focused product that you could ever build.
Right.
You know.
Right. Because it's coming from a very similar point of view, and you're not taking into consideration everyone else's experiences.
Right. And you definitely, this is one of those where the cliche of you don't know what you don't know comes into play hugely. You know, and so. I think at the end, at its core, how do you fix it? Is you tell people like that, or you show them how companies that are embracing diversity are succeeding and exceeding their peers because they have products that resonate with everybody.
Exactly.
You know? I think that's really the clearest, simplest way. You know, and then you go back, like reverse engineering, and you start seeing like earlier down in the chain, like, how do we supply the necessary like groups of people to fill these jobs, you know, and encourage them, you know, and show like the individual stories along the way, like what you guys are doing, you know, like highlight, you know, what are the people from all walks of life who are, you know, creating stuff of value and stuff of meaning. So.
And those are really good points. And for all those who are out there trying to tackle this situation, you know, that's a good idea in terms of making sure that you have the proper team to target the market and to build that product that you want to be able to scale and to have it available. So this actually touches back into something that we were talking about earlier and one of your challenges. So let's see what you'll do with this. The world is yours. You get to choose one mentor that would invest into you for a year. Who is it?
Elon Musk. I think because that guy, I think he is so confident in his desire and goal to change the world for the better. Well, we assume for the better, right?
Right.
At least on the outside.
Well, we can see.
From what we can see, for all we know, he's like an evil genius, like
Pinky in the brain type.
Right. But from our perspective, it looks like he has so much desire and drive and conviction that nothing will stop him. Like he doesn't believe he can fail, right? And he has the resources individually, and he also has the resources or understands how to get the resources externally,
right,
to get what he wants done, right? And so I would never bet against Elon, is what I'm saying. So I feel like he would be a great mentor to have. I would probably be exhausted after this year, because that guy probably sleeps like 3 hours a day, and
right,
goes totally against my whole
exactly.
trying to get more sleep and be healthy this year.
Yeah, no balance.
But I mean, I feel like it might be worth it, you know, to spend a year with.
And I'm sure your life will never be the same after that.
Oh no, for sure.
Whole new world, new stratosphere, everything, everything. There's always a soundtrack to life. If your life was a song, or even an album, what would you be listening to?
No, that's a tough question also, because it's sort of like
we try to tap into who you are.
Yeah,
I know.
Your mood shifts. Like I grew up listening to like Wu-Tang and like things like that. And then but I'll randomly listen to like Alabama Shakes or like Mumford and Sons, because whatever.
Just depends on the day, right?
Yeah, it all depends.
All depends.
And like.
So today, what would you be listening to?
I mean, I don't like. All right, so as cliche, because you say like, "Oh, you're so white" or whatever.
No,
like,
no judgment.
Like
no judgment.
Like last
no
few years, like one of my favorite groups has been Lumineers.
I like Lumineers.
And so
see, look, and I'm brown as they come.
But like, and I think a lot of this is like you don't also we judge everybody like books by their covers and stuff. You know, like, but like I also grew up listening to like Latin music because like my mom is from Panama, like. And so we had.
And
like,
you're in Miami,
right? And like we'd have like Ruben Blades like on the radio, like like in the car on the way to school, you know, like so. I think in Miami you learn to appreciate a little bit of everything.
Yeah, totally.
You know,
totally.
So it's just like to me a lot of it's also either what the story they're trying to tell, whether the lyrics or whatever makes sense, like resonate with me, or whether it's just like something that I'm just in the mood for the beat, you know, like, and I want the beat in the background to whatever I'm doing.
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah.
Very cool. We're all in the game. What would define your legacy?
Like
business, personal, however you want to define your
so
legacy. What would be on your tombstone?
So I think one of my sort of guiding principles is I want at the end of the day for me to have left the world in a net positive fashion than how I came into it, right? I don't want anyone to ever say or accuse me of having been a net negative on the world.
A moocher.
A moocher, yeah. You know, I want to create more value for society than I'm consuming.
Nice.
And so that's really what I hope it's at, something along those lines.
That's good. Which is why you like Elon Musk.
Sure.
It all loops back. So I have to put you on the hot seat this whole time.
This whole thing was a hot seat.
No, just a little bit. It was a little lukewarm.
Okay.
But now it's your turn. Is there anything that you have for me? Any questions?
What drives you?
What drives me? Very similar. Definitely want to sort of leave my legacy in the world. My great-grandfather, I love to like reference him because he was like the quintessential sort of pioneer, entrepreneur. He owned land. He had a horse and buggy business. Him and his wife would build homes at night, and he would work during the day. And he was mainly part of the reason why Coconut Grove is what it is today. And so just coming from that, I'd like to tap into sort of his strength and his sort of vision, because what he was able to do in the 1800s is amazing. So I should be able to do that plus more, given all the tools that we have. So that is a huge driving factor for me. Huge, huge.
So then what's going to be on your tombstone?
Oh, my tombstone, the girl who changed the world.
That's awesome.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes. You know, you got to keep your tombstone message a little short.
Right. It has to be like less than a tweet.
Like a tweet.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's what my tweet would be. So in Digigrass format and fashion, we love to do a final word.
Okay.
What would your final word be for this interview?
Like a singular word?
One word. We like to give you make you confined and keep
Sure. No, I think constraints are good. I think my word would be create.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
You heard it here. A fellow Miami native and Grovite,
Yeah.
Brian Breslin. It has been a pleasure.
Likewise. Thanks for having me.
Hopefully we'll have you again.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
Cool.
And this has been an episode of 2Techies. My name is Latoya Stirrup, and we will see you next time.